So I don't even know what to say here. I'm not really shocked that you will see Microsoft and Xbox start making their way to doing what Steam has been doing for many years. I think the way Steam has set its business up, it understands that if you protect your customers, if you protect your Patreons, if you give them good value, they're going to stick with your business proposition. There's no doubt about it. However, the consoles, including Xbox, and I gotta say this as well, I know there are many, pro Xbox fans that watch the channel. They also shot themselves in the foot. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, the opportunity to have opened up the Xbox ecosystem was as far back as the beginning of this generation for Xbox. They were doing a lot correct. Now, I can understand maybe the trepidation. You're thinking about how business has always been done in the traditional sense. And Phil Spencer is more of a conservative, person. People may or may not believe it. The way he approaches business is, in my opinion, very, very, methodical. I'm not saying that he's like overly constrained in that regard, but you got to take your time. You got to be careful. But I think there was almost, too much at stake for them to have basically sat down to keep this here. If it wasn't for the, what do I call it? The perfect storms that hit the gaming industry this particular time, I think it would have been really devastating. Because what happened was a series of unfortunate events. First, we had the entire, lockdowns in 2020. That kind of pushed the gaming industry to think that it's this big deal. And then they overhired, they did nonsense, and blah, blah, blah. And so then we realized that cost of games started to go up because now there was more demand for developers. People are making much more competitive games because, this guy made that game and the game looks like this. So that guy's got to make that game and the game's got to look like that. And then you also had this huge market saturation. Before even all this stuff, Unreal Engine had already been giving people the secret sauce, and Unity had been getting better, and CryEngine is sitting there. And so there are more developers that can make games. Then with that in the in the works, a lot of games that got delayed that probably were cooking during that lockdown period, they also were just basically broiling. And then before you know what's going on, as we get to the middle of the generation, a lot of games show up on the market. Before you know what's going on, exclusivity doesn't even really matter because these exclusives are not necessarily pushing games. While people were home, they were playing those free-to-play games even more, getting knowledge, about these different systems, and realizing that, man, gaming is a, community. Because one thing people don't really realize is humans are community-based creatures. This is why Tim Sweeney could literally come out and say, these multi-million-dollar games are being made and no one is buying them, because he understands, or at least he can lean on human psychology to ensure that, his game or any game he makes that has a community base, whatever, that picks up acceptance and basically gets, that viral zeitgeist is going to work out. So Xbox was kind of fortunate because all these things kind of took place and everybody had the opportunity to kind of kick it off again. Now we're seeing this particular paradigm, and in the middle of the generation, they seem to be making a U-turn. They seem to be making amends to course correct all what has gone down in the last few years. Now, what's really crazy, though, is there are people who are now going to come and try to insult those who are looking forward to these changes. Because a lot of gamers have been looking at the PC ecosystem. They've been looking at what the PC ecosystem offers. It's never really been performance. It's never really been, anything more than, say, graphics in, say, the quality of life. And yeah, a few things here and there. But for the most part, the biggest thing is all kinds of freedom and access to a different library. Which brings me to this tweet. It's a very weird one. I don't really understand what's going on here, but I'll try my best to see if you guys can decipher what is being said here. This user, the Crab Gamer, America First, says literally what the average Xbox fan looks like these days. Went from loving Xbox consoles to cheering on Steam and having to run virus protection on an Xbox, LOL, FOH. Now, I don't know what era the Crab Gamer was born in, but I can tell you virus protection is the kind of stuff that you remove as bloatware on your PC, if anybody knows what I'm talking about. Another thing, too, is the Crab Gamer is kind of, in my opinion, a very central figure to a lot of what has been going on, because even in the time that Xbox was being more conservative with its moves, agents like the Crap Gamer saw these, the onset of these moves, have fortified their position, maintained their frame of mind, and have not moved from where they basically have stood, even though they're basically on the wrong side of all of this. I've never ever said that somebody's on the wrong side in terms of gaming, but this individual, I think I can comfortably say that, because as a PC gamer, I can tell you that anybody who does anything like this, who says that they love a console or they love the old way of doing things, which in my opinion was closed, stringent, basically almost like it locked you in and enslaved you into its own rules and regulations. But now that the industry is now basically a dynamic place, it's forcing for whoever wants to survive to come out of their box. This is what has benefited the Xbox platform very well, because Microsoft done burst out of that box and said, screw it. We're going out there and we're going to go and get things done, and we're going to pretty much farm dollars. Which, the death of the console war is probably what has brought up this stuff. And remember, I have this timeline graphic that I've done for you guys on the Video Game Fight School channel. And I titled it the Console War Death Timeline, because Xbox had been getting bodied in 2015, and the Crap Gamer was hounding Phil Spencer all the way back in 2016 when he wanted to bring Quantum Break to PC back as far as 2016. It is this particular tweet, an interaction from Phil Spencer and the Crap Gamer, that bodies all the false arguments that these so-called PlayStation fanboys want to pull up. I saw Colin Moriarty even bash his argument on this rock of evidence, where he claimed all of these things, and all these other folks say that the Xbox console, blah, 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 and Icarus flew to the sun, yabba dabba dabba ba, not realizing that Xbox consoles had been facing problems as far back as the first few years of the Xbox One console launch, which is where they moved their games to PC, and you had people hound Phil Spencer and were not necessarily a part of it. They did not like that particular notion. But what was also important was that there were also Xbox fans who said that it was fine and it was okay. They were open-minded people. Since then, PlayStation has joined Xbox in launching its games on PC. PlayStation, who was probably supposedly going to be the ones that held it down. Apparently, Steam basically came in and said, your games are mine. And they put their games on Steam. And then Xbox decided that, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go ahead and we're going to flip the script. We're not going to play that game anymore. And this has really, really unnerved the strangest elements of this whole conversation. You see, you can admit that you're wrong. We can move on. Or you can double down and continue to basically stay on a ship that's sinking. The old ways of doing things is a sinking ship. There's no way that the old ways of doing anything is sustainable in terms of video games. I mean, Karch came out, the guy that owned the studio, that closed down the studio that made Saints Row. What did he say? He said the days of the 200 and the 300 and the $400 million games are going away. Developers, if they cannot make anything that basically brings their studio any profits, they're canned. And PlayStation and Xbox and anybody will can devs in a blink of an eye. So in this particular market and in this particular aspect of the whole thing, the way things have been going lately and so far, it is without any doubt of mine that before you know what's going on, the entirety of gaming is eventually going to pretty much get a very huge shift. And what we realize, or what we think about console gaming, or what we've thought in the past about console gaming, is probably going to be it's going to have a whole different look. It's going to have a whole different identity at the end of the day. Now, is that cause for me to celebrate as a PC gamer that, yay, everybody is actually coming to PC? Well, I never saw this coming. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I actually did see this, this coming in a way that it's been teased, if you get what I mean, right? But again, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not really certain Xbox is going to be so interested in doing that. I think their next, if they don't open up their next hardware, maybe even put it in the hands of other manufacturers, or put versions or variations in the hands of other manufacturers and then call it Xbox or whatever it is. I'm hesitant to say that they're going to go ahead and open up their console, but they need to do that. That is the move that they need to make. And I think it's really going to change up the entirety of the conversation. But again, there's a behavior of the console user. It's the behavior that, the console user has pretty much exhibited and said, oh, I'm not really interested, in tweaking settings and doing this and doing that. But I'm starting to see that there's some open-minded Xbox users that are also out here. They want to pretty much, engage into this new ecosystem, and from their Xbox, fly and take some trips into the land of PC from time to time, and then return back home to where they believe that their gaming is actually being served. So these are some of the things that Xbox is looking at. And to be very honest, Xbox has moved away from the so-called hardcore gamer. They moved away from them almost a decade ago. That kind of gamer does not exist. Xbox is here for the market. Those who are actually open to seeing gaming advance, right? Who keep an open mind, who don't want any tribalism or this so-called fighting some stupid arbitrary war over some corpo that doesn't even care about you. Rather, instead of finding value and ensuring that your wallet and your money is actually respected, there are people who believe that these old ways are the way to do things. I remember somebody that I had to block from the channel said, you better watch and see how PlayStation is going to stick with the old ways of doing things. I'm like, dude, The Last of Us Part 2 is being launched. What old ways are we talking about? Remember, you know what I mean? PlayStation is going to launch more games this year on PC than it has in a very long time. And you're telling me about the old ways? It's no longer here. It's a goner. And this is just the start, because there is another generation of consoles to come. Do you guys even want to know how that's going to look? Bruh. Thanks for watching. Talk to me in the comment section. Appreciate you all so much. Peace out.